When Mark Ruffalo appeared on Vanessa Cross's talk show, the audience was expecting a heartfelt and emotional conversation. However, Vanessa's goal was not to inspire but to challenge. She wanted to bring out the actor's most vulnerable aspects. As Mark sat down, he noticed Vanessa's piercing gaze. She smiled slightly, holding the question cards in her hand. What began as an ordinary interview would soon turn into something much deeper. But Vanessa didn't know yet. In just a few minutes, what Mark was about to say would change everything, and the audience would never forget this moment. Yes, the words spoken tonight would leave a mark on hearts. Before we get to the story, we have a small request. Where are you watching from? Don't forget to write in the comments and subscribe if you like stories like this, because tomorrow we will have another very special story for you. The studio is packed. Bright stage lights illuminate the wide stage, and the set in the center of the auditorium glows in the spotlight. The audience is impatient, holding signs that read, "Mark, thank you for giving us hope." The camera and production crew are in position backstage. Everyone is waiting for that moment. A silent countdown flashes on the stage screens. Spotlights shine on the backdrop, giving the stage the feel of a movie set. And then he arrives. Mark Ruffalo walks onto the stage with calm, sincere steps. He exudes a simplicity and human warmth that is different from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. He wears a simple black shirt, a slightly wrinkled blazer, and worn jeans. His appearance is exactly as he is, simple, humble, and genuine. His tousled brown hair falls across his forehead, and his smile is polite and sincere. The audience erupts into applause, some shouting his name, others simply smiling. Mark exudes an energy that brings peace and confidence to those around him. He raises his hand gently to thank them and sits down in the center chair on stage. As he settles into his seat, the atmosphere fills with excitement. Sincerity and respect envelop the studio. Sitting across the table is Vanessa Cross, standing tall and determined. Vanessa is a journalist known for her tough interviews and her ability to corner her guests. She is recognized for her style of exposing people's weaknesses and challenging them with unexpected questions. Her hair is perfectly styled, and she wears a tailored blazer. The thick question cards in her hands are tightly clenched. Her eyes are sharp, her expression inquisitive, almost predatory. His lips curve into a professional smile. After studying Mark carefully, he leans forward. His voice is clear and calm. He asks the first question. "Mark, you have fame, fortune, you could live like a king, but you take the subway, donate millions of dollars, and stay away from luxury. Do you really think you're making a difference?" The studio falls silent. The audience is uncomfortable with the challenging tone of the question, and murmurs rise in the hall. Some viewers eagerly await Mark's response, but Mark doesn't seem shaken at all. He continues to sit comfortably. After a brief pause, he turns his head slightly toward Vanessa and responds with a sincere smile. "Vanessa, have you ever thought about how many people feel invisible every day?" A weight settles over the room. The murmurs cease. Some faces change, caught off guard by the unexpected emotional intensity of the moment. Mark's answer resonates in the room with both its simplicity and its poignancy. Vanessa is momentarily taken aback by Mark's unexpected maturity, her eyebrows raising slightly. However, she doesn't seem satisfied. She turns one of the question cards between her fingers, her gaze almost hardening. She hasn't made her move yet. She leans forward slightly, preparing to ask a question she believes will shake Mark. The atmosphere of the interview has now taken on a completely different tone. The program, which began with energy, is now filled with silent tension. Mark's last words have created an unexpected wave of emotion. Some of the audience members looked at each other silently, while others clenched their hands, trying to process what they had heard. But Vanessa Cross was not satisfied yet. She crossed her legs and sat up straight with perfect grace. The smile on her lips remained fixed, but her eyes took on a sharper, more questioning expression. Vanessa placed the next card on the table, the question hanging in the air. Without pausing, she asked, "Mark, you lost the most precious things in your life. Your child, your closest friend. Didn't that destroy you? Didn't life seem like nothing but pain in the end?" The weight of the question was immediately felt. A murmur fills the studio. The audience holds its breath. Some cover their mouths, Others frown in discomfort at Vanessa's ruthlessness. Mark bows his head slightly, his hands clasped on his knees. Silence envelops the studio. The cameras zoom in on his face. His normally calm gaze now holds an indescribable depth, loss and pain, but not suppressed or denied. Vanessa doesn't take her eyes off him. She waits for him to hesitate, to show weakness. But Mark raises his head, takes a deep breath, and responds without faltering. Pain didn't destroy me, Vanessa. It shaped me. It taught me the value of everything temporary, the value of every moment we live, and that love, if it is real, never dies. The studio is silent. Some of the audience members cannot hold back their tears. A woman in the front row takes out a handkerchief and wipes her eyes. Even those who do not know his story feel a deep truth in his words. The camera turns to Vanessa for the first time. A brief flicker of unease crosses her face, and her sharp smile fades. It is replaced by confusion and perhaps a hint of regret. But Vanessa Cross is not one to give up easily. She straightens her shoulders, composes herself, and slowly runs her fingers over the cards in her hand. Her next move is clear. This time, she plans to strike Mark where he least expects it. Vanessa has not given up yet. The last card in her hand is a question aimed at Mark's weak spot. It is designed to make him look insignificant in the eyes of Hollywood. There is still a heavy atmosphere in the studio. The echoes of what just happened seem to linger in the air. The audience is quieter. Some are still trying to process what Mark has said. Vanessa Cross doesn't slow down. She straightens her shoulders, puts that familiar, calm smile back on her face. She slowly flips through the cards in her hand, as if choosing her question, but she already knows what she's going to ask. She leans forward slightly, her eyes narrowed, focused on her target. Her tone has changed. It is less harsh but more calculated, more strategic. Mark, you're 50 now. Hollywood isn't really interested in people like you anymore. Aren't you afraid of becoming irrelevant as you get older? The question sends a ripple through the studio. Some audience members whisper in shock. Others show their discomfort by frowning. Mark doesn't respond immediately. He rubs his fingers together lightly, looks away for a moment, to a place only he knows. Vanessa notices the pause and feels a slight sense of satisfaction. She thinks the moment she's been waiting for has arrived. But Mark lifts his head and looks directly into her eyes. His face is calm, but there is an unusual depth to his expression. Vanessa, have you ever watched the sunset? The question catches Vanessa off guard, and the audience turns their heads in surprise. Mark continues, his voice soft but meaningful. Sunsets are beautiful, aren't they? But have you ever met someone who thought they were worthless just because night was coming? The studio erupts in applause. Shouts of support rise from the audience. Bravo, Mark, some say. Vanessa remains motionless for a few seconds. She no longer has control of the interview. Her smile has faded, her expression has changed. In its place is an unreadable bewilderment and perhaps, deep down, a hidden respect. Mark does not respond, does not rise to the provocation, does not attack. He simply turns the question back to Vanessa, and he does it in such a way that, for a moment, the entire structure of the interview seems to collapse in the face of the elegance of his response. Vanessa takes a deep breath. She wants to regain control. She looks at the cards in her hand and realizes she needs to switch strategies. Her plan to unsettle Mark has failed, but there may still be a way. If Mark isn't afraid of his past, she needs to hit him from another angle. Her next move is clear. This time, she will focus on Mark's childhood. She feels the control of the interview slipping away, and this unsettles her. With his last answer, Mark has changed not only the audience's energy, but also the energy of the stage. He is no longer just someone answering questions. He is the one shaping the atmosphere. The audience now looks at him with a completely different respect. Vanessa, on the other hand, wants to return to her familiar, sharp-edged style. Her program is remembered not for emotional inspiration, but for difficult moments. She decides to dig deeper to regain control. She takes a new card, seems to choose her words carefully, but in reality, she already knows exactly what to say. She leans forward slightly. Her voice is colder this time, clearer. Mark, you grew up without a father. Your mother worked day and night to support you. Didn't you ever feel angry toward her or your father? The question freezes the studio. The audience shifts uneasily. Some feel Vanessa is trying to reopen an old wound and frown. But Mark, he was expecting this question. Mark takes a deep breath. He doesn't look at Vanessa, but instead fixes his gaze on a distant point in the past. For a moment, it's as if he's been transported back to the silence of years ago. Then, a thoughtful, faint smile appears on his face. My father actually taught me something very valuable, he says. Vanessa wasn't expecting this answer. She blinks, her surprise evident. Mark turns to her and continues. He showed me what kind of person I didn't want to be. He then shakes his head slightly. My mother taught me how to survive. With these words, silence falls over the studio. A woman in the audience begins to cry quietly. Another secretly wipes away her tears. Mark's words are not overly elaborate, but their meaning and simplicity deeply move the audience. Vanessa's eyes show uncertainty. This interview was supposed to be her show. She was going to set the pace and guide the conversation with her questions. But Mark refuses to play by her rules. He doesn't lash out in anger or go on the defensive. Instead, he turns every difficult question into a small but powerful life lesson. Vanessa doesn't know what to say. She shuffles the cards once more, her fingers slowly sliding across the paper. It's clear that her previous methods aren't working, but she still feels like she has one last chance. She looks up at Mark, and this time there is no mockery in her eyes. There is something else, something darker, more personal. Vanessa has only one move left, to confront Mark with his deepest fear, his own mortality. After everything that has happened up to that point, the atmosphere in the studio changes. It's hard to put into words, but there is something palpable. The audience is no longer watching an ordinary interview. They are witnessing something deeper, something more real. Mark Ruffalo responds to every question with almost serene wisdom. Even the sharpest remarks are met with silent admiration from the studio audience. But Vanessa Cross is not done yet. Her mind is evaluating each of the verbal traps she has prepared. None of them seem to have shaken Mark, but that doesn't stop her. She straightens her jacket and pushes her shoulders back. Vanessa is a journalist who has managed to break down even the most resistant guests. Pushing boundaries, digging deep, and exposing personal cracks is her specialty. But now, sitting across from Mark Ruffalo, she feels something different stirring inside her. It is not anger, nor is it exactly a sense of defeat. It is a disappointment stemming from the fact that the game she is used to playing is no longer valid. Mark has not only disrupted the game, but also transformed its very nature. Vanessa's goal was to uncover the secrets behind Mark's kindness. Instead, Mark has caused her to question her own inner world by asking questions rather than providing answers. Now she must use the last question she has left. This time she approaches him with a quiet, unassuming energy, but one that is darker beneath the surface. She leans forward, her voice is lower, more deliberate. Mark, aren't you afraid? The words fall into the studio and hang there. Time is passing. Have you ever thought about what will happen when your time comes? This time, it's not about success, public adoration, or acting. It's the kind of question everyone must eventually face. Death. Silence descends. The audience sinks into their seats. No one moves. Mark tilts his head slightly. He doesn't smile, doesn't change the subject, doesn't try to buy time. Instead, he simply takes a deep breath. The expression on his face becomes completely unreadable for the first time during the interview. The silence grows longer and longer. Vanessa holds her breath without realizing it. The audience leans forward. Finally, Mark speaks. His voice is soft but full of meaning. Vanessa, do you know the difference between fear and faith? Vanessa blinks suddenly. It's as if she's been caught off guard for the first time. Vanessa presses her lips tightly together. She was expecting resistance from Mark, a defensive stance, perhaps evasive answers. But what she got was the exact opposite. For the first time since the interview began, she is unable to respond quickly. Her gaze shifts to the question cards in her hand. She searches for something to regain control, but the words on the cards no longer hold any meaning. All the angles she had meticulously planned, the strategic traps and verbal games, now seem irrelevant, because this wasn't a battle. Mark Ruffalo had pushed her chessboard aside, and turned it into something else entirely, a conversation about life itself. As he silently looks at his notes, a question catches his attention, something he hadn't noticed before. Perhaps the only question he was afraid to ask. He looks up and speaks in a low but clear voice. What if, when you die, no one remembers you? This sentence changes the atmosphere in the studio. The silence grows heavy. The impact of the question ripples out like a stone thrown into a deep lake. The audience forgets to breathe for the first time throughout the entire episode. Mark doesn't respond immediately. Time seems to stand still in the studio. Though Vanessa's voice is barely a whisper, its echo is powerful. This question reflects one of the most raw, fundamental fears designed to unravel a person, the fear of being forgotten, to be ignored, to feel worthless. But Mark doesn't flinch. There is a calmness in his eyes. When he smiles, there is no mockery, no artificiality. This is a smile born of years of acceptance and inner peace. He takes a deep breath and begins to speak, his voice as calm as ever. What will they remember about me? Mark had said. Then a brief pause. He turned his eyes to Vanessa and added slowly, but isn't the real question, what will they remember about you? A noticeable stir ripples through the studio. Some take a deep breath, others sink into their seats, caught off guard by this unexpected turn. A few audience members look at each other as if realizing for the first time that Vanessa is also the subject of this question. The camera slowly zooms in on Vanessa's face. A woman who has spent years on screen analyzing others, building a powerful image, suddenly seems lost. Her lips part, but she doesn't speak. Her fingers clench the cards in her lap, but it seems she no longer needs them. Perhaps she never did. The silence lingers, and then something unexpected happens. A single tear rolls down Vanessa's cheek. She doesn't wipe it away. The camera captures the trembling of her throat, her swallowing, her changing breath. A heavy reality seems to settle inside her. Mark looks at her neither with triumph nor arrogance. There is only understanding and deep silence in his eyes. He slowly stands up. There is no applause in the studio. The crowd is silent, but this silence is not empty. It is filled with respect and thought. The audience sits motionless, some wiping away tears, others thinking silently. Vanessa Cross is motionless in her chair. The words she once used like weapons, the cards she once wrapped around herself like armor, lie on the table in front of her. For the first time, she realizes she no longer needs them, or perhaps never did. The cameras are still rolling, the world is still watching, but Vanessa is no longer thinking about ratings or headlines, only her own inner voice. Not, what will they remember about me? But what will they remember about you? This sentence echoes in her own eyes, reflected on the surface of the table. Someone who has dedicated her entire career to figuring out others is now asking herself for the first time. The screen fades to black. Then slowly text appears. Life is not about how long we live, but about the impact we leave behind. Soft, melancholic music begins to play in the background. The video ends. If this story moved you, don't forget to leave a comment and share it.